call the board meeting to order.
10:14.
Whoops, I've got the wrong agenda here in front of me.
Here.
Wait a minute.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, no, this is right. Excuse me. Roll call.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Finkel.
Here.
Thomas Stover is excused. Albert Hayes.
Here.
David Bergstresser.
Here.
Anthony Netto is excused. Jeffrey Rosenthal.
Here.
Michael Clark.
Here.
Robert Leslie.
Here.
Robert Fulton.
Here.
John Hodgson.
Here.
Richard Ferrari. Here. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion to adopt or revise the meeting agenda. We find the need to go in.
I had wanted to point out a couple of things that I believe you'll need on the agenda for public speakers,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and I was going to add an item under the contracts.
So we had public comments after introduction of guests.
Correct. And under contracts, a B for Hawkinsville remediation Phase 2 services.
Okay. And we also have the need to go into executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss litigation
And
issues.
personnel.
And personnel issues.
Where are we going to put
So,
that?
Usually at the
Collect-
end of the
At the
meeting.
end, at the end of the meeting.
You're talking collective bargaining
No.
or just straight personnel
What?
issues?
I believe you are talking.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
both.
Yeah, that.
Collective bargaining, do you want to invite anybody other than the staff members in?
Mr. Barley and Mr. Johnson,
Okay, sure.
Union President and
Union president, the
Yeah.
CSEA rep?
Yeah.
If we're going to do that, you want to hold the executive session earlier and so they don't have to sit here?
We could certainly do that.
Okay.
And then
Sorry, that just came
No,
up.
no, I'm sorry.
Well,
Just a suggestion.
litigation is the Niagara Mohawk case,
Yes.
Erie, Borlex, and
Yes.
Nicey?
Yes.
Okay. Just trying to keep you
No, I know it.
Keep me straight now.
straight.
Can we get it in and out twice? Can we?
Yeah, what do you do?
If
Do we do two executive sessions, or?
we could do two executive sessions, however, if we do the executive session at the end of the meeting, I think it's easier on
Can only.
the recording.
I just need to know, again, we can do whatever the board wishes.
absolutely.
We just have to know specifically that you're going to go into session and then come back out and complete the rest of the agenda. If that happens, then we have a different thing we need to do.
again, I'm new at this, but following Mr. Leslie's lead, wouldn't it make some sense so as not to
Well,
impose
that's
on
what I
their
was thinking.
time? Have our executive session, the beginning of it, have that component, and without coming out, excuse these folks and continue our executive session for things that are not relevant to these gentlemen, and then come out of executive session.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is what
As long as I know when it's going to happen, or we're going to have a chopped up webcast.
very quickly.
for the
It's
meeting.
just, it's a technical thing. Unfortunately, it's just not that. So whenever we do it, I just give me a heads up.
Okay, so we have the motion to adopt and revise the meeting agenda. You need a motion to that?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Bergstresser?
Second?
Second. Mr. Hayes?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried. We have a...
All right. I just want to check, what are we doing?
We're going into executive session.
Correct.
early.
Okay, thank you.
And
I just want to know
we do
if
it
the motion.
after, number 5, I don't have any guests here on the list, so why don't we do that, go into that right now? Make a motion to go into executive session, and
It's all right by me.
sound right to everybody?
It's
Good
fine.
timing? I need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
I can second that one.
Anybody in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, please excuse us, we are now going into executive session for...
And we're going to, yes, and we're going to include.
Call the meeting back into session. We have come out of executive session, and we've taken no action in executive session on anything. There's no action to take coming out of executive session. We're at number 6, capital projects for bonding.
Actually, public comment.
Public comment is next.
We added that, it wasn't on there.
Oh, okay. Public comments?
There'd be none?
My question was, why wasn't there a place for public comments, but you took care of it?
We revised the agenda to reflect
We did
that.
revise the agenda, and I didn't have it on here. Number 6, capital projects for bonding.
And this is really a secret status for,
Just an update of where we are.
yeah.
Yeah, where are we?
Lead agency coordination letters have gone out. I misaddressed one of them. That has gone back out, and we're waiting to hear back within the 30-day time frame, which is going to expire between now and the next meeting.
You answered my question.
That was good. Approval of the October 15th regular board meeting minutes.
I didn't say anything. I make that motion.
Mr. Bergstrasser.
They'll second.
Mr. Hayes.
Any discussion or corrections?
Nope.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I probably should abstain, having been excused from those minutes. I mean, excused from the meeting.
Mr. Astor.
Do we need 4 votes?
We need 4 votes.
Aye.
It was a good thought, but
Because you did see it on, you did
You
watch
watched the
it
webcast.
later on.
You
the
watched the
webcast.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
report of the executive director.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My report is on page 55. To that report, I would like to add, of course, I will answer any questions that I don't address here, but as discussed at our October meeting 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks? Not long ago, I have sent a letter to the chairman of the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors regarding our final payment of the past due taxes, which is per the settlement agreement for the Hudson River apportionment from what year was it? 2012. March 2012 agreement. That, the way it is currently established, that by the end of next June 2015, we would pay the remaining balance of the past due taxes, which were accrued 2009 to 2012. Essentially, the second half is more or less how it works out, to the tune of 900, and I don't have the rest of the number in front of me,
Is there the amount due?
the amount due at that point.
931 and change.
931,000 and change, due to, in order to keep our cash flow in the right direction, and because of expenses primarily, the payment of the to Albany County Engineering, or Albany Engineering, sorry, in our loss on appeal, when they sought refunds, we essentially wound up paying $841,000 there that was not budgeted, $516,000 of principal, and a lot of interest. That matter was resolved a year ago, in last November. However, that does put a kink in the budget a little bit, and in order to get past that, I have requested that Saratoga County consider a modification to that one term of that agreement, and consider allowing us to make 3 payments over the course of, well, what really amounts to 2 budget years for us. That letter, I put copies on the table. I don't know if I had copies everywhere. I think I put 4 copies up there that specifies what I'm requesting as far as the payment schedule. Essentially breaking that $931,000 into 3 equal payments of about $310 and change.
And if they say no, we have that earmark, what's our option?
Well,
Just curious.
No isn't an answer.
Okay,
It's, we can pay what we can pay.
all right.
And again, it seemed
where they
prudent
take
that we do it now rather than next May.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the middle of their budget year. I would assume that they are in the midst of their 2015 budget development now. Most counties are. I'm assuming Saratoga County also is. So that is the one item. On a different note, and I brought to the board a proposed resolution for a personnel move. The background to this is in years gone by, the engineering assistant title was always filled. The previous person in that position was Mr. Hodgson. When Mr. Hodgson was promoted to Hudson River Area Administrator and then also to the Black River Area Administrator, he still retained, out of necessity more than anything, many of the duties that were associated with the engineering assistant, to include the erosion monitoring program that we are mandated to have by FERC at Great Sacandaga Lake, and maintenance and coordination of emergency action plans, also at all our structures, and that mandated by FERC or New York State DEC dam safety, and many other duties. That position always answered and should directly to the chief engineer. I'm recommending to the board that we fill this title again. The new wrinkle to this, and in terms of job duties, are that the minority and women business enterprise requirements from New York State are ever expanding. They're worthwhile, and we're certainly doing our darndest to comply. I think we are. We're going to exceed our goal this year, and yet the workload that's associated with that is ever growing. It's not shrinking. Presently, that entire burden has been placed on our chief fiscal officer's shoulders, and the requirements for compliance are not getting fewer. They're becoming more involved, to the point where they're darn near, or could certainly be, in a large organization, a full-time job. So I would like to see an engineering assistant also assist significantly the chief fiscal officer with those with all the responsibilities and workload that goes with that initiative. So again, before you is a resolution. It is to promote Stephanie Rozicki from senior field assistant to the title of engineering assistant, and with the duties that I've discussed, certainly not limited to, for an annual salary of $61,000.
Do we have to fill the senior assistant, field assistant position?
Well,
That's how much
my recommendation was, if the board approves this move, that we would then at some point over the next couple of months do essentially a job search, or reach out to. First of all, we'd have to post that title. It would be a field assistant position. The senior title is for someone that's been in that job for a significant length of time. So I would, if the board decides to go forward with filling this, the engineering assistant, then I would ask that I be given permission to
Start the hiring process?
begin a hiring process for a field assistant.
I'll make that motion, if that's what you're reading.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Not right now.
Okay, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Now that we've done that,
Yeah, I can actually. I just had a couple more things briefly to add to my report. And since I just mentioned the MWBE requirements that the entire state is subject to, and that we're going to meet our goal this year. Our goal has been set at 20%. Right now, it's projected to be north of that. I mean, it's a fluid number, but it appears to be 23, 24%. There is the potential, there's very real potential that goal, minimum, let me say minimum goal, that may be moved to at least 30%. That in and of itself, it creates significantly more work for anybody just doing the research, just tracking down anything that's related to really what we spend money on. And a lot of what we spend money on, and should be, is engineering contracts and construction contracts. And that's, that's our job, that we're in the business of maintaining and operating dams. But to do that, there's a lot of legwork. So that goal may be moved to 30% in the coming years, and I don't know when. It's not my understanding is that is not an absolute at this point, but it's probably likely if they mentioned it. Okay. Also, I have had a couple of exchanges with the Adirondack Park Agency, and we're just over jurisdictional issues regarding how we administer the permit system on specific issues. And I have agreed to respond to them with a letter outlining those specifics, the things that we're talking about. In particular, the one detail that raised all this was stairs that we routinely permit for permit holders on state land in order to access the lake. That was the genesis of this, and I don't know if it was actually a real genesis, but I'm in the process of, let's say, crafting a letter to the park agency. And that's my report.
Any questions?
No, I love that entity.
Contracts, resolution to execute the one-year extension for the Albany lease, Albany office lease.
That would be me or Mike, but I'll address it. On page 56, the memo has information on it. It's actually a memo I now look at, and I didn't edit it. It's actually a regurgitation partially of the resolution. But in any event, we've gone to 1 year. I'm sorry? We've gone
Get
to...
the sidebar.
We've been doing 1 year agreements. And 2 years ago, we got that fairly significant reduction that netted us to we reduced some space, got a square foot reduction. So we were at 30,550. The landlord would like to increase that, and I think the increase is nominal and a reasonable increase, to 31,725. So I certainly don't have an issue with that. And again, we'll continue to go with 1 year contracts. The date, as the council pointed out to me, 2016 February, it's a leap year, so it should be, I'm going to change the language of the vendor's contract to read as of March 1, 2015, and ending on February 29th, 2016. So we're not starting the next one on
February.
Not on March,
So Rob need not pack up on the 28th.
correct, right. We don't need to
Look
be
for
out
more
for that
office
1
space
day.
for a
1 day.
day.
Oh, the vacation day.
So the resolution's on page 57. Again, I'll amend the resolution to reflect the change of February 28th to the 29th in both places on the resolution, and I recommend the board approve this.
Okay, any discussion?
No, not at the moment.
Hey, Rick, I just wanted to know something. If, in that lease there, is there anything, like, say, if after 6 months you didn't want that office, You could terminate that lease or anything, or?
There's things you could do within the building, so if we wanted to move somewhere in the building, you could certainly get a new lease, but unless it's mutual,
What happens if you
no.
moved out of the building?
Unless it's mutual, no, I don't believe there is.
Anybody else?
With some notice, mutually, we could end the agreement.
All right.
Motion to accept the contract?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Bergstresser,
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Mr. Hayes,
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Another contract. Didn't we add one?
B is
Hawkinsville.
Klein.
Hawkinsville.
Hawkinsville, Kleinschmidt. Mr. Fulton.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe the board received the email with the information last week. I also handed out the memo, copy of what we emailed last week. Memorandum. Moving on to the next phase of work associated with the Hawkinsville remediation. The Phase 2 engineering services, which involve preliminary design, permitting, final design, and construction observation. And Kleinschmidt has developed a scope of work and fee proposal, which is attached to my memorandum. They propose to complete those Phase 2 engineering services for a not-to-exceed price of $69,500. And staff recommends acceptance of Kleinschmidt's proposal, seeks board authorization to amend the contract to include the Phase 2 scope of services, and authorization for the executive director to increase the contract price by the $69,500 for the completion of those Phase 2 services for a total contract price of $167,250. And if there are any questions on that, we got to take them.
Nope. Any discussion, questions?
No,
I move.
Mr. Rosenthal.
I'll second.
Mr. Bergstresser.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
That's it for contracts. We move to committee, staff and committee reports. General Counsel, Mr. Leslie.
My report is on page 61 of the board packet. I'd note that myself and Assistant Attorney General Daig appeared in the U.S. District Court in Utica on Erie Boulevard's motion to dismiss the regulating district's affirmative case. We're seeking a declaration that Erie's entry into the 2006 stipulation, settling several lawsuits challenging the regulating district's assessments, precludes any refund claim Erie may assert with respect to the district's headwater benefit assessments. The court's decision dismissed our claim because Erie sought a credit rather than the refund we sought to extinguish. They also noted that the impact of the 2006 stipulation on Erie's entitlement to a credit is a matter squarely before FERC. And as we've discussed previously, that's a loss for us, but in that loss is a victory, forcing FERC to look at that issue. Other than that, we're waiting on decisions from NYSEG and Boralex.
You expect them shortly?
We do.
Okay.
Also waiting on a decision from NYMO.
Still.
Still. The PERB fact finder issued their report. We talked about that. It's up to the board whether they want to schedule a hearing to have both parties present that, their views on that report, so that you can make a decision. I'll leave that to your discretion as to when you want to do that, I guess. And that's it. I guess the state comptroller's field audit team returned to take a look at MC leave requests. So they were back in my office for a day.
That was nice.
Any other questions or comments?
None
No,
whatsoever.
not at the moment.
Thank you very much. Chief Engineer's report.
Wait a minute.
No, did I skip? I'm sorry, my apologies. Chief Fiscal Office report, sorry.
Look at that.
These are the financials that I sent you
Yep.
an email.
Yep.
Just in case you don't. And I'll be working on that set of reports, and so this is a good time of year for the district in terms of revenue receipt. On the first page, the summary. We now have in the STIP for Hudson, 1.5 million, and for Black River, 1.1 million. Those two numbers jumped based on the receipt of virtually 90, we have almost over 90% of the Black River's assessments. Again, the shortfall being mostly NIMO.
Yep.
There is, I believe, one assessment for 10,000 or so that will receive, but the rest of the balance will.
Everything's in.
One or two. In the Hudson, we've received from the counties all but Rensselaer County, and Rensselaer County doesn't have to pay theirs until January. And I believe that's the last year that they get
Per the agreement.
per the agreement. The state, we have not received, and we historically, for the last 2 years, have not received the state until after the budget is approved, so.
This
if they-
past year, that was what, late
very
April?
Right, it was about as, I think we got the state share as quickly as we've ever gotten it. So I expect hopefully if there's a state budget on time, that we would get it late April, early May.
Okay.
So on the receipt side, we're looking very good. And there really weren't any noteworthy expenditures other than we did make the payment for the new vehicle at the Sacandaga Field Office. That's the Explorer. That was $27,000 and change. And we did pay the bill for KBL doing our audit, and that was $21,528. Page 64, I each month provide the board with the entire list. Well, page 63 of the legal contracts, page 64 of the all other contracts. The reason I do this, number one, is that we're using these reports on a monthly basis to satisfy the public authority's requirement for the board to review contracts annually. So we do it one better. We look at them monthly. So if you guys continue to look at these contracts, if there's any questions you have and you ask me questions, then we have fully satisfied that requirement. And one other note, I think this is a noteworthy item. The 2006 Jeep Grand Cherokee that we took out of service when we purchased the Explorer has been sold by sealed bid. We did receive two bids. One was actually for $1,320, which was under the, we set a minimum of $4,000, so. And then the second bid was for $45,999, which we accepted. So I think that's a more than reasonable price for that vehicle, given the Blue Book value, which was somewhere in that neighborhood. And
Okay.
if the board has any questions, that's
I
my
know
report.
Mike is going to miss that vehicle.
He will miss it very much. Has a built-in bucklore scent to it that you don't
Not
get in a lot of
because of
vehicles.
me.
Hopefully the new owner appreciates that as much as we.
Well, any questions,
No, not right now.
comments?
Nice job.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I skipped you there for a second.
No, that's all right.
Now, Chief Engineer's report, Mr. Polk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because of the short turnaround time, my report, it only summarizes half the month, basically, of October in terms of its estimates and percentages, but I think the trends pretty much continued, and we had below average precipitation and inflow in the Hudson River area. The Black River area was a little bit below, but still below on both accounts also. And things otherwise are pretty quiet in terms of operation. Sacandaga, we're tracking along very well. Indian Lake, We're a little bit below our target elevation, and for the most part, in the Black River area, right where we expect to be this time of the year. And still kind of expect to see some additional rains. We did some, but still expect to get some of those rains before it turns really cold and falls in frozen form rather than liquid form. But in any event, I think we're in good shape overall with operation and elevation in terms of releases. Be glad to take any questions if you have any.
No.
Yeah, refresh my memory on something. We, a couple meetings ago, the board rejected a charge on a study, saying that they asked for the fourth study on something, and we thought that was unreasonable. Have we heard back?
We have not, no, and that's not unusual for the Federal Energy Regulatory
Okay,
Commission.
I just wanted to follow up.
I was going to
It
follow
does
up
take
on that as
a
well.
period of time, but we, immediately after that board's
Is it-
decision, we did contact
Okay.
in writing, formally submitted, as we would any other submission, and respectfully
Well,
suggested that we not move
Okay.
forward with an additional,
The study of the
Right.
study.
additional.
well, given the time frame of 20 years,
Yeah,
that we're now being told that we should have a fourth estimate, I would respectfully submit we'll hear
By the
10
same-
years from now.
By the same person that did the original.
Correct.
yeah.
It's halved.
It may be that we just don't, we're never asked again for that particular item.
That's fine,
Oh,
too.
don't
So-
worry, yeah.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you. Mr. Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report starts on page 112. I report that operations normal in both areas. We've started printing out our renewals at the Sacandaga Field Office for access permits, and they're being processed for mailing next month. And we started some riprap work around the lake, and next meeting, I hope to give you some figures on how much we've done in riprap work. Other than that, that's about it, and I'll be glad to take any questions anybody may have.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I got it. Just personal. All right, around the Sacandaga Lake, we issue permits because we control idle. How's it work in some of the other lakes, Indian Lake, where do the levels change? And I'm just curious.
Levels change.
Yes, but the ownership of the jurisdiction for land or the ownership of land is different than it is at Sacandaga.
Okay.
Stillwater, we have jurisdiction from the high flow line, 1679.3 and down.
Okay.
But we don't have any land jurisdiction above that elevation.
Right.
I think there is some private property
So
above
Sacandaga
that
goes above
elevation.
the elevation?
And then there is
far as
mostly
control?
state land under DEC, I think it is, controlled
okay.
around Stillwater. Sacandaga was constructed with a very large buffer of land
Okay.
that would be under our control, well above, vertically in elevation, above the elevation of the spillway and the high flow line. So because of that, it
Fulton Chain?
created a state-owned section of land, strip of land all the way around the reservoir, through which the private landowners would have to go in order to access the water, and that's why the permit system was created.
Got it. So the Fulton Chain, I assume, same as
Fulton Chain
Stillwater.
is, I believe that's predominantly it's private property all the way around. So we
Yeah.
have control of the water elevation and the lands under the water.
Okay.
There is some forest preserve with lean-tos and
Not much
forest
anymore.
islands.
Any other questions?
No, thanks.
Board member, excuse me, questions and comments?
Should we authorize Mike to start the hiring process for the field Assistant?
With respect to backfilling the field assistant
Yeah.
position, if the board's willing, like I'd mentioned during my report, I will begin that process.
Okay. So-
I don't think, because he's going to have to bring a resolution.
I don't think we need a resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just-
You don't need a motion now. because-
Oh, no, I'm just authorizing him to get to start.
No.
I just
As long
want
as
to
we
make
can.
sure.
Yeah.
Just, hopefully, he will be at the December board meeting, but for those who don't know, Tom Stover, board member, his term is up, and he's informed us that he certainly won't be back till after December. Hopefully, he makes the December meeting so that we can give him a send-off, but if he doesn't, I just want to thank him for his service and everything he's contributed to the board. Need a resolution for the next board meeting, which is Watertown, if I remember right.
Correct, Watertown, December
9th.
There you go.
Yes,
Thank
we do Watertown in December.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Bergstresser,
A second.
Mr. Hayes.
I love that logic.
Vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
Do I get to ride in the new vehicle up to
Most certainly
Watertown?
can.
Because I have no clue how to get there.
Just keep going
Just go
west.
through the snowstorm.
West,
Till you run
thank
into
you.
a lake.
Thank you.
And into the wind.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Rosenthal,
Second.
Mr. Bergstresser.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, thank you, everybody.